Okay, so thanks for joining me here at the channel. And today we're going to talk about one of these things. And I'm sure they look familiar to you. I read someplace where 7 out of 10 human beings on the planet have one of these things. A smartphone, an iPhone, or whatever you want to call it, okay? And that is incredibly impressive when you think about when you watch documentaries and news broadcasts and something, so on and so forth. You see like people in very impoverished areas of the world, they always seem to have one of these, no matter where they are in the deepest reaches of Africa or Asia or Papua New Guinea, whatever. These things are like ubiquitous. But anyway, the point here is we're going to talk about using this as a defensive weapon, as a striking tool to protect yourself and your loved ones, and also to protect your cell phone in case somebody tries to jack it from you. So let's take a look, but before we get into the meat and potatoes, let's roll the intro. So let's start with the basics. Today's mobile phone can serve as a viable self-defense asset. For example, it seems like everyone has one, and holding it in your hand is quite normal. If you can, get a protective cover, an armored shield, a casing for your phone, because it's going to make it a little bit more durable should it have to be used as a blunt weapon for self-defense. And when it comes to utilizing and deploying an attack with your phone, make sure you use your dominant hand for an attack. Now this can be tricky because as you're walking along, you're typically using your dominant hand to do your swiping and your pecking and your tapping. And your non-dominant hand is actually holding the phone. So it should be worthwhile considering that if it looks like danger is imminent, switch the phone to your dominant hand for sure. Okay, so one of the things you want to do is you want to practice an effective grip on your cell phone. Now, you're going to figure out what's best for you as an individual. However, I tend to like to do something like this, where it keeps the phone from sliding out of your hand with the two fingers up here on the short end of the implement, okay? Others just might want to grasp it just like a hammer, okay? Whatever, just make sure that it is properly secured in your hand when you go to deploy the attack. There's some options here you can talk about. First of all, the phone is ideal for those who are not willing or able to have a non-lethal device such as pepper spray or a taser or these types of implements. They're excellent ideas for unarmed security officers to use in the event that something has to be employed to protect themselves in a difficult situation. Liability, it gets away from all the liability things. This is no more than it's like using your toothbrush to defend yourself against a rabid kitten, if that even makes sense. Okay, and the attitude is the big thing. Let's talk a moment about that. Let's make this clear. Every self-defense course stresses the importance of having the survival attitude, the attitude of aggression and self-sustainment to get yourself out of a difficult situation. The same is true right here and now. Okay, with that said, you never deploy physical force unless you're willing to go all the way, all right? And this doesn't mean doing it half measures, okay, like, oh, I hope this doesn't hurt, or please get away, or anything. Once the decision is made to go physical, to go dynamic, to go kinetic, you have to go until you run out of runway, okay? And hopefully that will allow you to extract yourself from the dangerous situation. Hopefully it might even disable or daze or confuse your assailant. So survival mindset, survival attitude, big time. Okay, so now we're just going to spend a minute or two on striking points, areas, targets you should focus on when using your cell phone as a defensive implement. Let's take a look. Okay, I believe I mentioned this earlier, but there are several videos out on YouTube that covers this topic in depth. And they get into the nuts and bolts of strike points below the neck, below the groin, so on and so forth. And you're welcome to check those out, obviously, if you want in-depth and more detail about this. However, for now, I just want to keep things simple. And we're going to focus on targets at the shoulder and above. Let's keep it simple. Again, did I mention we're going to keep this simple? Well, of course we are. So take a look at this screen, and here are the key strike points you should consider when wielding your iPhone or your smartphone in a defensive manner. First, we have the base of the skull. We have the temple, of course, on both sides of the skull. We have the forehead, the eyes, the bridge of the nose, and then related to that, we have under the nose. Two different dynamics there for attacking the nasal area. We have the chin, the collarbone, which takes us into the shoulder area. We have the throat, that is extremely susceptible to strikes with the cell phone. We have the carotid artery. And of course we have the jawbone on both sides of the skull. All are valid targets. Let's look at the techniques for striking them. It's important to understand these techniques are not unique to the iPhone or cell phone implementation as a defensive weapon. The same rules can apply to flashlights, rolled up newspapers, or virtually any other improvised weapon that you have to rely on when in the field. However, with that said, don't threaten, just do. Don't threaten your assailant that you're going to do X, Y, Z. If it's come to this point, just do. Just do it. Just take him or her out. Adopt a grip that prevents the phone or the newspaper or the flashlight, whatever, from slipping from your grasp. Remember the survival attitude. And when you strike, strike hard, strike fast, strike repeatedly, and don't stop. Don't forget to use your dominant side and your dominant hand. That is, after all, where most of your strength emanates from. And use verbal aggression. This is yelling at the top of your lungs. Stop, stop, rape, rape, get away, get away. Whatever the verbal details are, scream them at the top of your lung as you're delivering your attacks on your assailant. This has a couple of important impacts. First of all, it distracts the assailant. You're cluttering his mental acuity, and he doesn't quite know what to do, and now you're concerning him about being discovered. And secondly, quite obviously, your verbal aggression, properly executed, will hopefully attract attention to your plight and get assistance to you in a New York minute. Just a thought, but think about it. Okay, that was short and sweet, and I hope not too painful. If you want to learn more about this kind of thing, subscribe. And if you want to keep encouraging me, give it a like. I'm Cole on security. I'll see you around campus. Bye-bye.